It is day 2 of the triumphant return of the UEFA Champions League, and like day 1, it did not disappoint at all. Now, there were a lot of big winners on day 1. I think there's equally just as many big winners on day 2, but none bigger than the defending champions of the English Premier League, Leicester City Football Club. Welcome back to the Sports Vault, everyone. Jersey Joe Archino back here. And, you know, Leicester City, it obviously hasn't been the picture-perfect start to the season for them in England, but we all knew they were going to kind of take a step back. Last season, defying all the odds, overcoming being 5,000 to 1 odds to win the title, but they did it. And I look at the start that they had in the Premier League, losing to Hull City, drawing against Arsenal, beating Swansea, and then this past weekend really getting thrashed at Anfield against Liverpool coming off the international break. But I think a lot of us were pretty confident that this was a pretty favorable matchup for them against Club Brugge. And when I look at Leicester City, I think, you know, the guys on this team, the confidence has never really faltered for them. Yes, they got off to the tough start in the Premier League. It hasn't been perfect, but Claudio Ranieri, if anything that his team showed last season, even when they won that title last year, it's that they had the resiliency. They lost 3 times last season, twice to Arsenal and once to Liverpool, and those losses really could have been the doom and gloom that kind of sunk them back to the bottom where they're used to being, but it didn't, because they're such a resilient group. And when I look at this 3-0 win, I mean, it's exactly what Leicester City is all about. It had the kind of signature patented victory for them. Riyad Mahrez showed who he is, why he's one of the best in the world. I just thought for Leicester City, it's the kind of win that can get them back on track. Now, Ranieri said at the beginning of the season more losses were going to come, and I think we all expected more losses to come. When you only lose 3 matches the previous season, that's a very difficult thing to match the next season, especially when you're the defending champions. It's just so hard in that league with the competitiveness and the way teams spend in the offseason to defend your crown. But Leicester City, I think, has every reason why they should be able to get out of Group G. It is not a very difficult group. Porto and then Leicester City should be sealed to get out of that group, but for Leicester, I think this win goes beyond the Champions League. I do think this helps them out dramatically in the Premier League, kind of get back on the right foot. Obviously, I didn't pick them to win the title this season, but I do think that there could be a thorn in anyone's side in this competition. And in the English Premier League, I do think this win helps get their confidence back and helps get them back in the right direction in that realm of competition. The other big winner on the day, of course, the defending champion of this competition, Real Madrid, 2-1 over Sporting. And obviously Real Madrid kind of had to answer back late. Ronaldo with a beautiful free kick to make it 1-1. And then Alvaro Morata being the difference maker at the end. I mean, we saw what he did at Juventus, played a lot of meaningful minutes for them over there, played some big matches, and now he's back over with Real Madrid, and he's being a difference maker there as well. I think it's a fine addition for them, bringing him back. We all kind of knew he was going to be, and look at what he's done for them already. Now, I don't think Real Madrid will win the Champions League again this season because, again, it's so difficult to win this competition in back-to-back years. I picked Barcelona, and of course, coming off their 7-0 win over Celtic the other day, I think you would have to feel pretty confident about that. But it's still very early in this competition, and Barcelona obviously got off to a tremendous start. To me, the biggest losers of today, probably Tottenham and then Juventus. Now, Juventus not as much because Juve is playing a very good Sevilla club, and we know what Sevilla has been able to do the past previous seasons in major competitions. They're a thorn in anybody's side, but Juve had all that excitement. They had a great start in the Serie A. I mean, it's almost a flip of what happened to Juve last season. Last season, Juve started 0-2 in Serie A. It was the first time in like 80 years that they'd started the league 0-2 after winning a title. So we were all kind of saying, is this the year Juve finally takes the step back? Can Roma capitalize off this? Can Napoli capitalize off this? And Napoli did capitalize off of it for a little bit, but Juve finally came back in the picture. And although they got off to the struggling start in Serie A, that really never carried over to the Champions League. And it's funny, they played Man City their first match when the Champions League returned last season. Man City was a perfect five wins from 5 matches in the Premier League when they played Juve, and then Juve beat the perfect Manchester City team. So it's just one of those things where competition to competition, it can just change your whole season. Getting hot in one can get you back on track in another, and that's kind of why I go back to Leicester City for a minute. That's why I think this giant win here can help them get back on track in the English Premier League. But Juve, certainly a lot of people were excited to see all these new players, Dani Alves, Miralem Pjanic, all these new faces in the new place and seeing what they would do. But certainly it wasn't the most exciting. Not a ton of chances in this game. Juve had a couple of them, but I don't think any of us expect anything different. I think we all expect Juve and Sevilla to still advance from Group H. It's just the way it is. The only surprising thing is it was at home for Juve, so you would have thought for them there it would have gone a little bit more their way. But again, it's not something I worry about that much. This is still a Juve team with a lot. Again, they have a lot of new players, and they're still learning to play together. In the Serie A, they've been fine, and I do think they're still going to go very far in this competition. Don't think they'll win it, but I do think that they'll stick around for a very long time. And the biggest loser for me is got to be Tottenham Hotspur. You know, I look at Tottenham, and it's one of those things where they've really been a club on the rise. They have a lot of youth. They've done very well in the Premier League. It kind of all unfolded for them last season towards the end, where they really got off to a really bad finish. But I think we all kind of looked at them, and we looked at the group that they were placed in and said, this is a very favorable group for them to be in against Monaco, Bayer Leverkusen, CSK, and Moscow. That's not a very difficult one to be put in. Tottenham's obviously hasn't been in the Champions League for a while now, but being back and being placed in the favorable group that they're in, I thought to me that looked very promising for them. I still think that they'll probably find a way to get out of this group, just because maybe Bayer Leverkusen will be the other one, probably so. In Monaco, though, you never know, because they got off to a very strong, with this win, that helps them out tremendously, but very disappointing for Tottenham, especially a club on the rise like they are. To me, they're probably the biggest loser of day 2. And then another one, which I almost kind of forgot about because their match got rained out yesterday, so they play today, is Manchester City Football Club. And really, it's been a perfect start to the season for them. I mean, they have not lost to this point. They found a way to pull out the wins. They won the derby against Manchester City, and then they use that momentum, come into this game. They get Sergio Aguero back, and Aguero made his presence felt, and he made everybody know he was back with his hat trick. And it's just one of those situations where last season, City did very well in this competition. They didn't do well in the Premier League against the other great clubs in that league. But in the Champions League, they stuck around until the very end, losing to the Real Madrid club that won the competition. So for a season that was overall disappointing for Man City, they did make up for that tremendously when it came to the Champions League. But when I look at Man City, this club right now, I mean, it's just, I thought it was going to take a long time for the club to really, really be the mirror image of what Pep Guardiola wanted them to look like, but they just seem to be adjusting to that very, very quickly. I mean, I think you look at the last goal Aguero scored from Raheem Sterling, where Raheem Sterling just makes a perfect pass. I mean, you're just seeing Pep's blue imprint on all these players. You've seen it with Kevin De Bruyne. You've seen it with Raheem Sterling. David Silva has just always been great, so I don't know how much about that. But I mean, he's taking over a club that already had so much talent. I think what it came down to was building a community, getting the players connected with one another, and he has certainly done that because they've gotten off to a perfect start against Borussia Mönchengladbach. They get the 4-0 win, and I think after Pep's first victory in Group C, you have to feel very good. I mean, Group C is a juggernaut with, of course, Barcelona and then Man City, but the two of them, hands down, far and above Celtic and Borussia Mönchengladbach, very easily will move out of this group. I think the thing we're all excited for the most is when these two clubs play against each other, because we're really going to be in a store for that. But based on day 2, your biggest winners, Leicester City Football Club, Real Madrid, Man City, biggest loser, Tottenham Hotspur, and then I'd say Juventus a little bit as well, but that is going to do it for this episode. Jersey Joe Archino here with the Sports Vault. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Archino and on Instagram, Jersey_Joe_Archino, and I'll catch everybody in the next episode.